So do you
Okay.
have quite serious thunderstorms?
Yeah, we are having a very big thunderstorm and it's raining from last 3 days. So,
Wow. So almost like a bit of a monsoon coming through.
yep.
So
And yeah, what can I say?
there's nothing you can do when that comes
Yeah,
through. It's nature. You can do nothing.
nothing. Yes,
When we get our strong winds and we lose our internet, there's nothing we can do. We have 10,000 people without internet, and there's nothing you can
yes,
do. You've just got to wait for
yes,
them to reinstall and re-get going. And
yes,
it's something you have no
control.
control over. So you can't do it. There's nothing you
Yep,
can do. Yeah,
yep.
no.
Okay,
I've
so
got
you're now like,
excellent, excellent. And I look forward to seeing you for the last one before
yep,
you head
okay.
for home. Thanks, Harry.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, Sue. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to have you in class with me. Great to see you again. All right. Have you done this particular class with me? Garden
Oh,
upcycling?
this is the first time
Oh, okay. So you'll
with
find
gardening.
out, yeah, some interesting gardening ideas using things that we have. So you can learn, find out some new ways of doing. Oh, let me close that curtain. Blind down. My dog. Oh, my dog. My dog. Thank you. That's better. Now the sun is not shining in onto
Mm.
my computer. Yeah, no, it's great to have you with us. At the moment, looks like we've got quite a big class. Of course, whether they come in or whether they don't is to be seen. But
Okay.
in theory, we've got 18 people coming in. So,
Okay.
so that could be, as I say, I'm not sure whether they will all come or not. Sometimes you have a lot and only three come, and sometimes you have only three and you get a lot of live learners. So, yeah, we're getting more and more live learners in class, which is difficult because sometimes they get our emails and sometimes they don't. So I'm not quite sure what the solution is for that.
Okay, our team should be able to figure that out. It's something that yeah, so they need to really notify those participants to register instead
Mm,
of doing the live. Yes, because it's
mm,
much better. We'll get more material because of course the recording, we'll get the
yeah.
recording. So yeah, we really need to work on that.
Yeah, yeah. I think people just suddenly think, oh, I've got some time. Let me see what's showing. Almost like going
Okay,
on
that
the
would be the reason too,
TV and
actually.
swapping stations, just looking to see
True.
which program do I like. This one, no, this one, no. Oh, this looks interesting. Yeah, I'll stay here. And I think that's exactly what the live learners do, which is great because you get more people interacting with you. But as you say, they don't get the stuff that they need afterwards. And so that is a pity for them. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll come up with a way of doing things. Yeah, so we look forward to learning about gardening. Do you have a garden, Kim?
No, but my grandma does. It's
Your
a huge
grandmother?
garden since we're in the Philippines. It's a tropical country, so we do have orchids and
Oh,
um
I
a lot of
love the
flowers actually.
I love the tropical flowers. When I go to Bali, I go to Indonesia, and I see all the beautiful flowers that they have that just grow wild. It is beautiful to see because I love orchids. I really do. So for me, seeing those is something really special. Um, and being able to do. Did I make you co-host?
Oh, let me
Um,
check that.
no, I don't think I did. There we go. Your
Okay,
co-host now.
thank you.
Now that's better. I suddenly realized I hadn't co-hosted you.
Thank you for that, Sue.
No, pleasure. It just depends on whether I'm awake enough or not as to what
Oh,
I
this is your
do.
first class,
No,
or
it's
this
my
is the second one?
it's my second one, yeah, and I've already been doing some other teaching as well. So now I've been up and about. My first class was at 7 this morning. So yep, bright and breezy and up and about and working. Ah, here comes Peggy
Don't forget
Carruthers.
to turn on the record button.
I'll do it
Thank
right
you.
now. There we go. Ah, here comes everyone. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Norma. Welcome, Peggy, Teresa, Rosa, Kathy. Lovely to have all of you. Donna, I recognize some names. Excellent. Lovely to have some new people in
Can I
class.
ask you something?
Yes, of course.
Well, I suggested a class for you, a couple of, because I always love your classes. Um, Something about toys or how to play with pets, how to make toys for pets. Are you going to do that?
Well, it's interesting that you ask. I have a meeting with my boss this afternoon, and it is the first thing on my agenda. I have already done research for it, and I've just got to get the go ahead from her.
You know,
And if she says yes,
we're
May will be when they will start. So I've just got to
oh, that
get
would be
her
so
to give
cool.
me the
That
nod.
would be so cool.
Mm, no, I have done quite
I've
a
got to
lot of
watch that one.
research. Ah, good. Yes, no,
Well,
Peggy,
it's pretty, they're fun to play with.
mhm,
I
and I
love my
found
pets
some.
and they're fun. They're really fun to play with.
I found some lovely ideas, so I
Oh,
hope
I
you will
bet.
be able to enjoy them
So
too.
you say it would be May?
May, yes, I'll know
Oh,
this
well,
afternoon if I can do it.
I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Excellent, excellent. Right, Teresa, Carol, Norma, Catherine, Kathy, Ellen, and Glenna. Wow, what a lovely collection of people with me today. I is there anybody that's not from America? Is there anybody from Australia like myself? No, not yet. Okay, well, we're hoping to get some Australians joining us as well, because we're having just launched here. People are just getting used to us and what we are doing, but it's slowly growing here. And I think once it takes off, it's going to be amazing. I will be having a number of my classes earlier in the day because they've asked for that. So I will be getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and looking bright eyed at 6 a.m. But I will know this afternoon about the earlier times so that we can have our lessons at that time. I know some of you have stayed up till midnight for classes, and I really appreciate it. Right. Welcome, everybody. And I hope that today you will be able to come away with even just one thing that you can do in your garden. We're using things that you already have that you never thought of putting in the garden or using in the garden. So let's share my screen. If I've got the right one, yes, there we go. Too many things on my screen. Oh, press the wrong button. I might have a problem here. I hope it doesn't interfere with what I'm doing. No, there we go. Right, let's see what we're doing. We're going to do upcycling gardening time. Now, there are so many things that we have that we turf out because we think, what can I do with this? Or if they are mementos, they gather dust on the shelves. What do I do with them? Or I pack them away very nicely, safely, put them in the attic, put them in the garage. No, what's the use of that? You're not enjoying them. We want to continue enjoying things that we already have. And so today, that is what I'm aiming for you to be able to do. We're going to learn from each other. So anybody who has got any ideas as we're going through, please share them. I've learned so much from everyone. So please, if you can, let's do it. You can request a recording after the class at help@getsetup.io. And if those of you who are live streaming, the best way to participate is to actually register and join the class. We're not paid to promote anything. So if I happen to say some product or something, it's purely what I use or what I've grown up with. A little about me. I live in Perth, Australia. So for me, it's 10 a.m. in the morning, bright and breezy. For you, it is probably 10 p.m. or a little earlier than 10 p.m. I have been an educator for 44 years, but what I so enjoy about being part of the Get Set Up team and being a Get Set Up guide is that I no longer educate, I share ideas. And that for me is really special to be able to do. I enjoy creating and making things, including any kind of puzzle. Those are always my favorite. I have a love for animals. That's why I do my animal series. And that's a little about me. I have my husband and I moved to Australia 3 years ago from South Africa. I grew up and lived there for 63 years before moving here to Australia. He is wonderful. He's also a Get Set Up guide, and we do most things together. So I am really fortunate to be able to do that.
What are his classes?
He does microgreens. He's Michael Plumstead. He does microgreens, the
Oh, so
apps,
he has a different
Zoom.
name.
Yes, he
name than
does.
you.
He has a different. When we got married, I didn't change my name across. There's certain reasons why I haven't been able to change my name yet. Hopefully,
Okay.
in the next 2 years, I can change my
Okay,
name to his name.
but his name is Plumstead.
Yes, Michael Plumstead.
Okay,
So,
nice.
so he's also a Get Set Up guide. And it's wonderful that we can work together. Right, what can you do with these things that we have here? Old boots that you've worn or your husband has worn for years. You can't wear them anymore. You don't want to wear them, but they've got some sentimental value. I've got a use for them. Tires that you take off your car. What on earth do? You leave them at the tire shop. Oh, sorry, I don't know what to do with tires. You keep them. No, no, no. There is so much we can do with tires. Your old baking equipment, your teacups and saucers, your teapots, all of those things. An old chest of drawers that you had, it's falling apart, but there's still little bits of memory in there. You can use it in your garden. And I'm going to show you how. And of course, your milk bottles, your bottles that you have from your washing powder bottles, your softener bottles, all of those can be used so well in your garden. And I'm hoping to show you how. So, our first thing is, what do you do with an old chair? Oh, it's rickety. I can't sit on it. If I sit on it, I might fall and break a hip. I don't want to do that. So what do? I turf it. No, don't turf your chairs. Use them. You can paint them with a water-resistant paint. There's many acrylic paints that work very well with that. You can paint them a color that suits your particular garden or your particular patio. And you can then turn them into a planter. You can either plant on top of them or cut a hole in the seat and put planters inside the hole of the seat. So you can do it on top, inside. You can put them in the garden and then have the plants growing around them in the garden. It makes it look so beautiful. And you can then have either little gnomes or something around it. It's entirely up to you how you want to turn it. It becomes a feature in your garden or on your patio. So it is a really lovely way of being able to get you can just if you're a bit worried that it's going to fall through, you can actually take chicken wire and go round if it used to just have a cushion on it, you can make a basket of your own out of chicken wire or mesh and then put your plants growing in it. If it's in an inside part, if it's inside the house and you are worried about water flowing through, what you do is you plant your succulents in there. Because succulents you just spray with a spray gun, and so you don't have a water leakage problem coming out of the base of that. But you can really make a feature using your old chairs. Has anyone ever tried that before? No, nobody's tried to use a chair. It's wonderful to use your chairs. You are able to really make and do wonderful things. And so let's see what else we can use.
I am in the Symphony Guild, and I was going to suggest that they make a fundraiser or some type of a thing that could be called musical chairs.
Oh, wow. Yes, you could.
And I meant as a fundraiser because, the people they sit at chairs. You could have a violin chair, a trumpet chair.
Wow.
And
Yes.
you would get designers. My chair would look like a dog chair, but
yes, you
there
could.
would be
You
ways
could.
to. And
Musical
this could be
chairs that you could have a whole thing, and you could have a judge, and you could really get a wonderful fundraiser using old chairs.
You could make
yes,
money. You could make money.
Definitely. People would love to upcycle their chairs and turn them into interesting chairs. Very definitely. That would be a great idea. Now, so we've added a fundraiser to it as well. I think that's an awesome thing to do. Well done, Peggy. Nice idea. Now, how many of us find a piece of wood, or we've cut down a tree and then the wood just lies there and doesn't do anything? I go into the forest. We walk in the forest every day, and At least once a week, I bring home a piece of interesting looking wood from the forest, and that now then takes place, disappears into my garden, and it becomes part of my garden. It either has gnomes climbing off it, or I have a plant planted in it, and it becomes a feature in my garden. And so here, looking at these are just cut off pieces of wood. Some of them are pieces that have got gnarled and bent over the years that you find when you're walking in the wild. Or if you are at your nurseries, you often see sometimes when you are driving past and they're cutting down a tree, you can find some really interesting pieces of wood. All you do is is to chip out a little bit of the wood so that there's enough space for you to put a little bit of soil in, and you can plant your succulents in there. And now it suddenly got a new life, and it's no longer just an old piece of wood. And you can really make it into really beautiful gardens. Um, I find that it is giving new life to that wood, and that wood is giving new life to your plants. And so it's kind of a cycle that is going. But you can plant pretty plants inside a big piece of wood and turn it into a feature. You can have small pieces, big pieces in between. You can put little pieces one on top of the other. You can get really creative and make wonderful features inside the house, outside the house, in your garden, on your patio. You can use wood anywhere. Now, in Bali, they make a glass that they put on old wood. And so you find a piece of wood and then they melt the glass so that it fits the shape of that wood. And then onto that, you can then plant a planter or do something interesting. And that is also very, very beautiful. I have a large planter like that. And I've even got one that they've done it over a shell. And I collect shells. So it's really special. I can now plant in my shell as well. So there are so many things that you can do with your wood. Don't always look at every piece of wood that you see and see if it talks to you. If it speaks to you, take it and then start deciding, how am I going to use it to really bring out something special and different? Now, your old baskets. How many of us have got old baskets that we've used years ago and they got dumped up in the attic or in the garage because you're not using them anymore? They're looking a little tatty to take to the shops. Now you take your basket and you turn it into a planter. What I do is I always paint a waterproof paint over it just to protect it. And then into those baskets, you can either put soil itself. I line it with plastic, making sure there is a hole at the bottom to let excess water out. Because if you don't, you can drown your plants. And it's very sad to see a plant that is drowned by too much love and too much water. So if you just make holes in the plastic to allow that water to drain through any excess, you can then put a lining of plastic, your soil on top, and then your flowers in of any description. If you don't want to plant them in the basket, you can actually put the pots into the basket. And then you can change them according to the seasons and things like that. But you can really, up a flight of stairs, if you have a basket on every step or every second step, you can really make a beautiful creation. You can also we have a place called Salvos, which is where people bring stuff they no longer want, but is still in good condition. And for $1, you can buy amazing things. You can buy different baskets that will match in with the basket you've already got. And then from there, you go with that. So you can really turn your baskets into wonderful creations that are able to be used. A nice way of remembering and using your baskets. what do you do with your colander? Your colander is now getting old and tatty. What do I do with it? I paint it up in a nice bright color. I always put a little bit of thin mesh inside just to keep the soil in so the soil doesn't go through the holes. And then I put my soil in and my plant on top. And then I can hang it up. I can put it on the ground. It can be anywhere. I can have 2 or 3 hanging, or I can put them one on top of a box and one below a box on a table, giving 2 different heights. I then have beautiful containers for my thing. If you're going to plant plants in, I would put them outside because the water does drain through the colander holes. That's the whole idea. And so having them outside where they can drip and hang is perfect. You can also take your old watering can, paint it up nicely, and then I take the nozzle off the end. And when I'm putting my soil in, I put soil and I put an ivy in through the nozzle and plant it inside the pot. Inside the watering can, and then it looks like it's drizzling water out, and meantime it's ivy leaves, and it really looks attractive. It makes it look so interesting because here's this ivy coming out, and at the top you plant whatever you would like to plant. Nice bright colors, hang it at an angle so it looks like it's pouring, and you have a beautiful feature either on your patio or even outside under the tree. Hang it off a tree. It makes for such an interesting thing in your garden. I've also, at one stage, I didn't have a tree to hang it from, so I took an old fork that I used for digging in the garden, stuck the fork in the ground, and attached the watering can to the fork. So the fork was a feature with the watering can hanging off it, watering the plants that I had planted below. It really made for something to look at. It was attractive for my family to see, for me to see, and a talking point when people came to visit. They used to, we've always, I've been very lucky since I've been married to Michael. He has green fingers, and so I get the creative ideas and he does all the hard work, and he talks to the plants and they look absolutely awesome. So we've had, in South Africa, we had amazing gardens, and here we've got a really beautiful, we've just revamped we've got a tiny garden, but we've revamped it recently with an arch and a little garden with small plants and gnomes, and made it really interesting. So we have some fabulous ways that you can just, looking at Pinterest, coming up with, oh, I like that out of that garden. Oh, look at that. I can use that in my garden with what I'm doing. And in that way, you can create your own unique garden, be it a 2x4 garden or a very large garden. You can certainly choose a section of a large garden and then work on it section by section using interesting things that you have already got. Any questions, any thoughts? Anybody like some of those ideas? Who would like to use a basket to make a very pretty flowering garden? I see a couple of hands going up. Nice, lovely to see. Right. Now, your old tires. What do we do with old tires? We leave them at the tire shop. No, not a good idea at all. You can turn them into wonderful planters. All you do is flip up the one of the inner walls, and it's very easy to cut with a strong pair of cutters. Your secateurs often work very well. You can cut loops, or you can cut triangles. You can cut any shape you want. A cutting knife also works. And then I put at the bottom, I put thin mesh to keep the soil in with some stones on top. Put your soil in and plant your planter. And you can paint it any color you like. You get any acrylic paint, sticks to the tire very nicely, and it works beautifully. So you can make really brightly colored planters. I used to have a rockery, and we used to build our rock. When I was a kid, I loved climbing in the rockery. Now, to get rocks is quite difficult, and it's heavy and everything else. Use tires. You can either turn them brown so that they look like rocks, or you can make them bright colors, and then into each one plant different color plants. And you end up with a really beautiful display as a rockery. You can plant your herbs. You can have a lovely herb garden with your tires, one tire per herb or one tire per vegetable, your carrots, your peas, your beans, any plants that you are wanting to plant, you can then also put in there. And you are able to have rows of different plants up against a wall, out of the way, and easy to get at and easy to plant and use. You also can use them hanging on a wall. I used to hang them in South Africa on the wall. I don't do it here in Australia because we have some fairly large spiders, the size of your hand spiders. And those I don't want to put my hand in and find, because those hunting spiders are a little scary. So I don't plant that way at the moment. I'll come up with a way to do it, but not at the moment. You can shred your tire and then put just plants at the bottom and tie some of the shredding to make a ribbon that can make a really beautiful one-off display somewhere within your garden. And the last one is to make a little water feature. We had a tiny garden in South Africa, and so to make a little water feature the size of a tire was perfect. We chose a spot, and at the beginning, we just put plastic lining in. Eventually, we cemented it in. But to start with, because we weren't sure exactly where we wanted to put it, we then put it where we thought. And then as every time we went for a walk, we came back with small stones. And then we built up all the way around with little stones all the way around it. We tried putting fish in, but the cat and the birds fancied the fish, so we gave up on fish. You can put a little motor at the back by building up a little area, and then you can have a water feature where the water is continually turning, coming in and going out, or you can make it into a water feature, and then you can put little statuettes around it if that's what you like. But it's not big, it's as big as your tire. So you can choose a really big tire. You can go to the tire places. They're very often happy to just give you some tires, but you can get a big tire, a small tire, and choose what suits you best to make your little water feature. Then you can put some big chairs around and you can sit and have your tea or coffee around the water feature. And it's really beautiful, peaceful way of having what you're doing.
What with that, you said you can make a little motor and make like a water
You
fountain, make it move.
You could make a water feature. Yeah, you can actually buy
No, I
little
mean,
fountains that
no,
go
you
in the
said,
back.
and aren't those quite expensive?
No, if you go online, you can find all prices and all sizes. There are
So
very
in other words,
expensive ones.
it makes it like the water is running, or I mean, like
Mhm.
it makes it like a
Running
little
out.
water fountain.
Mhm. Yeah,
Makes it like a little waterfall,
yeah.
and that
Makes
doesn't pose a health danger.
No, you do it with I do it with a solar heater to make it run. I put a little solar panel nearby and that makes it run. And because the water is constantly running, it is keeping it fresh and keeping it aerated.
No, I meant, is there a problem with you getting electrocuted?
No, not with a solar one. No, you're not bringing any wires from the house or from
Oh, okay.
an electrical thing.
You say the thing is not expensive to get.
No,
You can get a
if you
water
look
feature.
online, if you look online for pumps, you call
So
them,
it's called a
they,
pump.
It's called a pump, yeah. A pump. You can call it a water feature pump, and then you get that, and they're not they're not they go anything from I think $8 upwards, so they're not expensive.
Are
And
they difficult to install?
no, not at all. You just place
Oh,
it
really?
on, and you put your solar panel close by where the sun can get to it, and it just keeps going. I actually put plants around my solar feature, so it makes it into a feature,
That would be
and
very cool.
so it really makes it very pretty and very cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, worth looking into. Definitely worth looking into. Anybody else with any questions? Anybody else with anything they somebody has asked here, I have a tractor trailer tire that has been painted on the outside and flowers planted inside around. Fantastic. That is awesome, Catherine. You teapots, you're going to see those, but yes, a hanging teapot, lovely. So there are some really, you could do this with, somebody did it with an antique baby high chair, Kathy. That's awesome. Wow, to put plants into a high chair, that is so great. And did you make the silver planter with pink flowers? No, I haven't. A friend of mine did. A friend of mine made one like that, and it wasn't difficult for her to make. I was amazed. I had thought of doing that, and then it was time to move, and I haven't done it here yet in Australia. I'm still getting up and running here with all sorts of things, because this is my kind of thing, is making and doing and using. I've done my basket planters and things like that. I've in fact taken baskets, and we've got a fence, a slatted fence, and I've hung my baskets on the slatted fence and put plants hanging out of them. It looks really cool. So there are lots of ways of doing it, using a little bit of imagination as you go along.
What is that
With
thing above to the right of the screen? And it looks like it's plants, but it looks like a sun coming out.
Oh, that's just two tires on top of each other that they've been cut. You've flipped open the wall of the tire and cut it. So you've got one, and then you've got a smaller one inside it. It's just two tires.
But how did you make that? How did you make those pedally looking things?
You cut it with cutters, and it's not difficult. That's plastic, I want to call it, the tire is easy to cut into shapes. You can do it with a cutting knife. I drew on mine and then used a cutting knife to just cut them out. It's not difficult at all.
And then you
can
painted
make them
that, right?
curves. Yeah. Painted it bright
That's cool.
colors.
And those are real plants in those.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I don't believe in plastic
that's
plants.
No, I
I
guess not.
I love my real plants.
What were the best kind of
Depends on the
plants to
heat.
put in there?
If you have a very hot climate, there are certain plants that can survive in the heat outside. We've got impatiens, do anything. They can take heat, anything, cold, heat, the works. So impatiens are great, and they flower for a long time. Your violets will last for a long time in there. They look very pretty. Little snapdragons we've got in some of ours. If you just go to your nursery, or you look online for plants that take the temperature that you have in your particular area, and then you put those into it, and they work really well. Potting plants that will take the temperature. The temperature is important, because if it's too hot for them, they just burn, and that's not fair to burn a plant, and they die. So you make sure that you take full sun for your area, and then anything that says that will grow well in there. So they're lovely. I've even seen people plant some tall plants in there like camellias and so on, and they really do look gorgeous in those containers. I'm in the process of designing one for my patio where I'm going to make the tires black, and then I want to put bright red flowers so that the contrast, yellows and reds, and that contrast with the containers. And then so that's where what my aim is at the moment. We're still in the design phase at the moment. So, all right, now other things to do with your tires: you can make furniture. Furniture is very easily made. If you've got children and you don't want to necessarily have chairs around all the time, just stuff an old cushion or a few cushions that you had, pillows that you had, or your old plastic bags that you haven't a use for anymore. Put those inside some nice brightly colored material and then stuff them into your tire. They make a wonderful cushion. I've just got, now that I'm here, I used to have a sewing machine. I don't anymore. I've just got one of those handheld sewers. That's all I need to sew up a cushion or to make something that I can put inside things. A table is always useful. Tires on top of each other, glass on top of that makes a really useful table. And you can, if you've got cushions on your chairs that you don't want to leave out at night because the dog's going to sit on it or it's going to rain, you pop them inside your tires, put the glass on top. They're perfectly safe until you need to use them again. So that is always a nice thing to do. If you've got a dog that eats everything in sight, a tire is really difficult to chew through. It'll take it quite a lot of time to chew through the tire. You can even make chairs out of 1.5 tires. So if you've got 3 tires, you can make 2 chairs. You have one full tire at the bottom, which you then put your stuffing into. You can either buy foam rubber and put that in and just put a cover over it. And then you can also get thin square foam rubber, which you then put into half a tire, again covered in fabric. And that makes a really nice chair. And then you can put either some little legs on the bottom, you can screw them into the tire itself, or you can even put runner feet on that you can put the brakes on when you're not wanting to move them around. And then you can sit on those. And they're actually very comfortable. Surprisingly enough, if you don't like a low back, you can put 2 halves going up, and that then makes a high back chair. But you can decide what is more comfortable for you or what for where you are putting them. Out on a patio, you can use your tires on edge and they sit on them. Surprising, I didn't think this would be comfortable, but I have sat on some of these. I haven't made it myself, but those sitting over a tire and leaning on the table is actually very comfortable for quite a length of time. So if you've got a corner and you've got people that come and go, particularly the younger generation, they love to sit on those kind of chairs, and they can sit and have a drink or a beer or a cool drink and play a game of chess or do whatever they want with them. So you've got those kind of things as well. So there are many ways you can utilize your tire to make it into furniture. Outside, if you've got a little corner of the garden where you might want to sit, you can put a tire just with a piece of wood cut on top of it. And you can get the hardware store to cut your wood for you if you haven't got a saw to be able to cut it. Or you can put cushions on it, as long as you've put some plastic underneath. You don't want the cushions to get damp from the ground. And then you can take a pallet and make that into a table. So you can sit with your table and your thing out in the garden, somewhere underneath a tree in summertime. Not so good in winter, but great in summer. Any questions? about using tires for furniture.
Was that tire with the dog? Is that for the dog? Is that
It's a dog bed.
to-
His bed.
oh, it's a bed.
It's a dog bed.
Okay,
And
so you paint it and then you would sew a little
cushion
dog
to
bed
go
into it.
inside. Mhm.
Or you maybe could use a dog bed that's already made.
Oh, yes. And then you just stuff it into the tire. Because if you've got those wicker ones, my dogs eat the wicker ones within seconds. They've
Okay, well,
started chewing.
what is the advantage of putting a dog bed into a tire?
It gives it firmness, and I find that my dogs don't eat the bed as much. They chew on the tire instead of chewing on their bed. I've saved myself a lot from buying beds, buying those or recovering beds because they've chewed a hole in it. So when it's in there, they seem to sit on that, and the first thing they feel is the rim, and it's nice and chewy, and they chew on it like they would a plastic bone. And so it takes an awful lot to chew through a tire. So it has saved me a lot. Also, it makes it attractive. You can put it a particular color in a particular room that matches with your room, and nobody even notices. And there it is. Dog pops into its dog bed, and it's very happy in its bed. Just as a thought. Right now. Grandchildren, if you have grandchildren that come to visit, you can use your tires very nicely in that way. Little ones, you can turn it into a sand pit. You can turn it into a water feature where they can swim, and then you just turf it out when they're finished, or cover it with something so they can't drown in it. You can make it into a game, a tic-tac-toe game, by just putting a piece of board over it. You can make them into swings. You can make them into climbing equipment and round equipment where they can climb in and out of the tires, or just a row of tires up your driveway or along the fence, brightly colored. They can climb on them and have races on them, climb through them. They can have a lot of fun as a playground. So it's really, and then if you've got a very big area, you can build a climbing tower, and they can just climb over all the different ones. You can plant in there as well, just things that don't mind being trodden on, like your ground covers. You could put ground covers growing through there as well, make it very attractive when the children are not there. So there are lots of things you can use them for children's entertainment. Right. Now, fun ideas. What do we use in our garden? Let's work our way around the picture. The first one, take an old pallet, attach it to the wall, and then put soil inside the pallet, because you find it. I always put thin gauze or mesh inside just to keep everything in place, and then you can plant your different herbs, write which herb it is in a nice fun writing or very beautifully depending on what you want, and then you grow it, because the roots can't go very far. They stay small, and it's easy for you to maintain them. The bigger the pot, the bigger the plant. I have 1.5 meters basil outside my window that it has grown because it's in a big pot, and he's really gone wild in his big pot. He started off as this tiny little thing that I had bought at the supermarket. But you can then use it for your cooking. You come outside, take a piece of herb, take some dill, take some basil. It's now getting to summertime, I always have a jug of water. We're not so much in winter now, we're getting to winter, but I have a jug, and in it I always put a slice of fresh lemon, and then I add some mint to it, or I add some basil to it. It just makes it have such a lovely flavor when I am drinking my water. Sometimes I just put mint or just basil. They both make really nice a flavor to your water, and you just let them float in there for during the day and keep filling up with water as you go along. You can also take your old baking trays and attach those to your gone blank pallet, and then hang your plants off your old baking trays. They really do. You can have round ones, square ones, rectangular ones. It really doesn't matter. They will, if you just hook them on and then plant your plants. Make sure there's a hole at the bottom. Just use a nail and a hammer to just hammer a couple of holes in it, and away you go. So then you can also hang baskets off it and make it into a feature on the wall. If you've got an old bird cage, you had a bird, the bird's no longer around, you've still got the cage. What do we do with the bird cage? Plant plants in the bird cage, hang it up as a feature, and let the plants hang down from the bird cage. It can make a really beautiful display. And then it's something special. It reminds you of the bird you had. And so it is. Oh. My husband has been in the garden and has just brought me a rose from my garden. So this is one of the last roses of the season, and some of the jasmine that is growing in my garden. So I have just got a lovely orange rose, and all our roses have scent. We only buy roses that have a scent, and oh, this is a beautiful scent on that rose. Right. You can also use your old drawers out of your cupboards or chest of drawers. You take it and you just line it again with plastic just so that the wood doesn't rot, and you can plant anything in it. You can plant all types of flowers in it. You can do your succulents, you can do flowering plants, and you can place it on a table or anywhere around. Your old shoes. Now, my stepdaughter-in-law, she doesn't wear shoes. She only, stepdaughter, I should say, not in-law, stepdaughter. She only wears sneakers. So even for her wedding, she wore sneakers. Down the aisle, she went wearing her white sneakers, very happy with them. And so what does she do with those sneakers afterwards? She doesn't really want to wear them and get them dirty and so on. You just line them with a little bit of plastic and put some potted plants into them, particularly if it's a succulent, because then you just spray the succulent and you don't get too much liquid going into the shoe. And now in her lounge, she's got her sneakers. I taught her how to do it. She's in London and she's got some succulents in her sneakers, and they are a feature in the living room. And now every time she sees them, it reminds her of the wedding and it makes her smile. So you can use your old boots, you can use your old galoshes that you've worn. Those make wonderful planters for your, and they're brightly colored. You can put them around in different places and they make a feature. You can take all your old, not old, the ones you want to keep and you've been saving them. What do I do with my teapots? What do I do with my cups? Again, you can put plants in them. The only thing is they do not have holes in the bottom. So do not overwater them. As soon, you only water them when they're starting to look as if they're starting to fall over a little, then add some water. In that way, you are quite sure that you are keeping them, or once a week watering often does it as well, but little. You don't need a lot of water at all. And you can put them on a ladder. You can take a ladder, put pieces of wood on the ladder, and then put your different plants. It makes it into a talking point, a feature. Any questions about this? Any ideas? Any other ideas?
I have an idea, a
Yes,
question.
Peggy.
Back to those tires. So I guess I skip around too much, but back
Doesn't
to
matter.
the tires.
Mm.
Could you put that like on a patio and put water in it as an entertainment for your cats?
Oh, yes, of course you could. Of
But
course
I
you
know you
could.
wouldn't put fish in there because they would eat the fish. But I mean, they kind of like water.
Of
I
course
know
they
if
do.
and
Uh,
and then also I have a covered patio. I don't know if the birds would start drinking that water, and then
I
that would be a problem.
I think the birds would come into your patio, your covered patio, and come
Well,
and
they
drink.
already are because we've got bird feeders. But
Well, then it would be
I mean,
perfect.
and then I guess when the cats come out, the birds would leave. Would leave.
Oh, they're very clever. They do. They disappear when they
So
know there's a
you
bit
don't
of
want your
danger.
cat. You don't want your cat to kill the bird.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But yes, no, you could certainly do it as a feature. You could even put little stones around it. You could make it into something really pretty, and you
But
could
I
have
think
it.
that would be fun to watch a cat fool around with water like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's
I mean, I
amazing.
know they hate water, but
Oh, it moves. It moves. So we put our paw in to see what's moving.
yeah,
So yeah, no,
that might be
absolutely.
kind of fun.
I think it would be great fun.
Okay, thanks.
A pleasure. Right. Some other things. What happens when you have a brick wall that's got those holy bricks at the top and doesn't really look that attractive? Put some soil into each of the little holes, put a little succulent into each of those holes, and you've now got a very attractive thing that is growing. And we found the other day a succulent that just trails. And all you do is break off a piece and pop it in, and it's now hanging down our walls. And it just grows. So you don't need a lot of soil in order to get things to grow. Often I used to think when I was younger, I had to have all the soil to get something to grow. Not necessarily. A lot of things do not need a lot to grow. And if you add a little bit of fertilizer to that soil every now and again, just to give it that extra bit of zhuzh and make it more alive, that's also a good idea. I take an eyedropper and just eyedrop into little holes like that once every 6 months. And it makes such a difference. You can take old paint tins, paint them up really nicely into different colors. Then you can go to your haberdashery shop and you buy different ribbons or different edgings, and you put those around because then it gives it texture. And you choose a color that matches with your pot or is in contrast to your pot, and then make a nice thick handle so it looks like it can be carried, and then plant your plants in it, and they can stand anywhere. And it really is an attractive planter. Your old shutters that you've taken off at some stage off a window, what do you do with it? You throw it? No. Paint it up, just sand it a little, make it look nice, paint it a color that you would like, and then put it where you do your gardening. And you can hang up all your seed packets, because my biggest problem is I buy seeds when I see the ones I like, and they end up being in a drawer. And then I go shopping again and I find more of exactly the same. And I think, oh, I don't think I've got those, so I buy those. Get home and find I've got the same. While if they are hanging on a shutter and you can just look at them and go, oh, it's time to plant the carrots now, or it's spring. It's time to plant these plants, these plants, these plants. Let me plant the seeds. They are all there and visible, and they've all got pretty pictures on them. So it actually makes a very pretty thing on your wall, very practical as well. You can use old trunks, old desks. All of these things can be used. Just pull out the drawers, put in your plants, and let them become a feature. Let them become something special in a different part of your garden. I spoke earlier about using a ladder. Here's a picture of a ladder being used, using some of the pottery that you've got that you really don't want to part with, using old pots, using anything you've got. You can turn anything that has got enough space to put soil in it into a container and put plants in it. So don't be put off in thinking, oh, I can't use this. What's the use of it? Think laterally and you'll come up with something you can use with it. So these are just some fun ideas. Now we're going on to our hanging gardens using your plastic bottles. Plastic bottles turned upside down, turned sideways, can create the most beautiful containers, particularly if you have a small garden. You can hang your 2-liter bottles all the way down. You paint them different colors, cut squares in them, cut a space out, put your soil in, and you've got your planter. Holes at the bottom to allow water through, and you can plant anything and everything in these. There was a restaurant in South Africa that made one wall a live wall. And they did just this. They hung them on the wall. They then had hanging plants coming out of them. People lined up to get that particular seat so that they could sit amongst the greenery because it was so different and so beautiful. You can also just use the most people use the what I call the wrong end of a bottle. They use the bottom end. There's so much you can do with the bottom, but you can also use the top of the bottle. And if you cut it off, you can use the top of the bottle to plant in as well. And you can put those onto a board and you can hang all your different herbs on it. So you have a herb board and then you can just take them off the herb board. You can make a hanging where I used a planter base, one of the plastic bases that you would stand a pot on. And into that, you can take the bottom end of your bottle as going the one way and the top end of the bottle hanging lower down. Using just water, making water plants. I didn't put soil in those at all. Mine didn't look quite like the one in the picture, but it was similar. And you build your way down with that. Makes a very interesting looking planter. You can do it halfway round if you wanted to lean against a wall. You can do it whole way round if you want it in the center of a place. You can put the bottles on an old piece of wire that you've got that was from something else, put it on the wall and turn it into a feature. Any questions on the bottles? Right. Right, I've got lots of chats that I will come back to in a second. Right, the last of these is the different ways to use your pots. Hang them the right way up, hang them upside down, all work very, very nicely. Using your old detergent bottles, you get them in all colors, but of course you can paint them as well. I use a sponge when I'm painting. And then you cut them the shape you want and plant your plants inside. They look so attractive and you can have a whole wall of those. You can take your palette and put them between the pallets. You can also take the big 5-liter water bottles or the 10-liter water bottles, and that can become your vegetable garden as well. Right, I just want to have a look, see what we've got as our questions here. Right, could you provide us with instructions of making the silver carrier out of tires? I'll write it for you and put it in as a little extra. Yes, I can certainly do that for you, Catherine. Does the rubber come off on on clothes? No, it doesn't.
Could you make, is there some way with all of this stuff to make a raised garden? I'd like to have a raised garden.
Certainly, you can use all of these in a raised garden.
No,
All you do.
I meant, could you use some of these items to make a raised garden? I
Oh,
want a
yes.
raised garden. Well, how
Oh,
would you do
yes.
that?
You would
How would you
use
do
your
it?
tires. Your tires are a great one to start your raised garden.
And
Using
are
your
the tires real heavy to carry?
No, no, they're
They're not.
not. No, you roll
So,
them. You roll them wherever you're going and put them where you want. But to pick up, they're not heavy.
and then you would just put tire after tire on top of each
Mhm.
tire, and
Yep.
then that would
Yes,
be cool.
that would make a
And then but
lovely
you would
garden.
have to be careful of the sun on that, right?
No, the plants you put in there, yes, you've obviously got to plant plants that are able to be sustained in the sun. So that
Yeah.
would
Oh,
be
so
the
but you could also do it in a shade garden.
yes, certainly. Oh, yes, you can do it in a lovely shade garden. Then you choose the plants that go with shade.
I would love that. That would be cute.
You could,
I want a raised garden.
yeah, no, you can certainly make a lovely one. It really is so easy to make and do. Um, and also, so you can really mix and match what you've got and how you do it. And what I suggest is, if you get a copy of the thing, you can look at each thing and see how you can adapt it to make it into your raised garden.
What do you mean a
Because
copy of each?
of,
What do you
of
mean a
the
copy of each thing?
a copy of the recording, so that as
Oh,
you go from page to page, you think,
oh,
okay, that I can now make into my raised garden. Oh, that I could use for my raised garden. And so you do it that way.
okay.
So there are lots of things that were here that you could use in a raised garden. Definitely. Definitely indeed.
I think that would
Uh,
be pretty.
oh, it would be really beautiful. I'd love to see some pictures when you've done it. It would be awesome to be able to do it and to have. Right. Oops, gone too far. Jumped too far. Right. That is hopefully from this, you have come up with at least one thing you would like to try and see if you can use it in your garden. Thank you so much for being in the class with me. There is a copy you can get at helpitgetsetup.io. I also do an overview of upcycling. I do upcycling household mementos and household goods that you have in your house, and also upcycling of plastic. So there's lots of things in the upcycling circle. I also do recycling as well. So there are lots of different classes like this that give you ideas to use things that you didn't know what you were going to do with, but now you've got a new purpose for them. Thank you so much, everyone, for being in class. I really appreciate you for being there. It has been a great evening sharing with you, and thank you for those who've shared with us. So there is some ideas to do. Anybody got anything they'd like to say before we close the class? Well, thank you,
It was
everyone.
wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Oh,
Excellent.
pleasure. Great.
was
I'm glad
great.
you enjoyed
Thank
it.
you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's what I love doing. So I'm just talking about what I enjoy doing. So
I'll be
for
looking
me,
out
it's a
more for
pleasure.
you.
Fantastic. What you can do, our new ones for next week are not up yet, but now there's a new feature for you. You can type my name in the top box, in the search box, and my classes will show. But the new ones for next week aren't up yet. They'll go up in the next 2 days. Hopefully, we're going to get more advanced. So we have 2 weeks up or 3 weeks up. But at the moment, only next week's will go up tomorrow, probably. And you'll be able to see what we're doing next week. But thank you, everyone. Nice to have everyone with me. I hope to see you all again. Lovely, Melinda, to see you again. It's lovely seeing names that I see quite regularly. Have a great evening, everyone.
You
Bye for
too.
now.
Everyone,
Bye.
have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sue.
Bye.
Pleasure. Bye. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you. You're
Bye.
welcome.
Bye-bye.